Wow, guys, JD Vance with the CNN, CBS, and NBC and destroyed everyone. You have to check this out.
Senator Vance, good to see you. Thank you so
Good to see you
much.
too. Thank you.
So let me ask you. Obviously, Trump's former chief of staff, General John Kelly,
Sure.
was alarmed, he says, by what he heard when Trump said he wanted to use the National Guard or the Pentagon to go after the enemy within, Americans with whom he disagrees, including the Pelosi's, Adam Schiff. And then he gave an interview. He said that Trump,
AKA Drain the Swamp.
quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, that he is, quote, certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. You've called him a disgruntled former employee. But why shouldn't Americans out there listen to somebody who worked closely with Trump, worked with him longer than you've worked with him, retired four-star Marine general, served his country honorably, who is conservative, who says he agrees with Trump on most policies, but is worried about this aspect of Trump?
So let me say two things in response. So first of all, a lot of what John Kelly, pretty much all of what John Kelly accuses Donald Trump of saying, there were other people in the room, Mike Pence's former chief of staff, for example, who've explicitly said Donald Trump never said those things, right? So one, on
Mike
the
Pence, the
specific
guy
comments,
who's not going to support Trump because
Mike Pence's former chief of staff said that Donald Trump didn't say those things, right? So that's number one. Number two, I actually think there's an interesting conversation here to have, Jake, which is why does John Kelly not support Donald Trump? It's about policy. It's actually not about personality.
He says he agrees
Facts.
with Trump on most policy.
No.
He agrees with Trump on most policy.
The
He disagrees
fundamental-
with Trump on how Trump views his role and his and the fascism and the authoritarianism.
I don't buy that, Jake. I don't buy that because if you actually look at John Kelly, at folks like Liz Cheney, the fundamental disagreement they have with Donald Trump is even though they say that they're conservative in the sense that they want America to get involved in a ton of ridiculous military conflicts. They want America to police the world, and Donald Trump wasn't.
John
And if
Kelly
you
lost
look
a
at the
son in
policy-
Afghanistan. Why are you saying that he like? I've never heard John Kelly say whether he
Jake, come on.
supports of Iraq or Afghanistan.
And I honor his son's sacrifice, and I honor his family's sacrifice. That doesn't mean he's not wrong about policy.
But what specifically are you talking about? What has he said that?
Is your argument that a person who lost a son in Afghanistan can't be wrong about public policy?
I'm asking
then
you.
why
No,
bring that up? Let's talk about public policy
because you were
I've
asking-
never criticized his service or
I
his
brought it
son's
up because you're
service.
acting as if he is pro-war, and I've never heard him say whether or not he supported the war in Afghanistan or the war in Iraq. He was a general carrying out orders.
Because I know John Kelly's worldview, and I know the people who have attacked Donald Trump the most vociferously on foreign policy. They'll say, well, he's a dictator, when what they really mean is they won't listen. Donald Trump wouldn't listen to the leadership of the military when they wanted him to start ridiculous conflicts. That is a consistent theme.
Guys, before we continue this video, I have to let you know, JD Vance is literally the kryptonite to CBS, NBC, and CNN. I got those videos coming. But whatever narratives they try to push, he destroys it and goes with the truth. That's why you have to love someone like JD Vance. That's why I believe he was a good vice president pick for Trump. I I believe that honestly, and I know the comments. I read the comments. I see you guys believe it also. So don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Let's just keep going. And how do you guys feel about Mike Pence? I really want to know because he's from the state that I'm from. So let's keep going, guys.
And I think that there's a big thing going on in American politics. It's a very interesting theme in American foreign policy where a lot of former members of the Pentagon bureaucracy, a lot of old neoconservatives, they have a fundamental difference with Donald Trump on the question of peace and war. I believe Donald Trump is the candidate of peace. I think the record supports that. But the reason these guys go after him so vociferously, I don't think that it's about his personality, Jake. I think that it's about they don't like that Donald Trump said no when a lot of them wanted to start a ridiculous war.
Well, you're ascribing worldviews, I think, based on gut. I can't really tell where you're coming from on it. There's no evidence.
Based on people that I've talked to in the Trump administration
John
about
Bolton,
what John Kelly wanted to do, John Bolton, Liz Cheney, these people have a consistent
John Kelly
worldview.
was at the Department of Homeland Security, and then he was chief of staff. He was not weighing.
Guys, this is honestly maybe JD's Vance's best performance. He's not letting this guy Jake try to interrupt him, try to control the narrative. Literally, he's owning everything that he says, and he's doing it with calmness. Calmness. CNN, you may have just helped Trump win the election. That's my honest opinion. You may have just helped Trump win the election. That's what I believe. Guys, we have to finish this video out. This is a long one, but I have to input when inputs do. Let's keep going.
In. I don't even know what you're talking about. But let me ask you something about John Kelly specifically, because you said the other day, quote, I guarantee John Kelly talked to somebody on Kamala Harris's campaign beforehand, before he did this interview. Now, I've spoken with people in John Kelly's circle, and I've spoken with people in the Kamala Harris campaign. They say there's been no communication the entire time. So where did that come from?
Oh, I'm highly skeptical of that, Jake. You know the way that these attacks work. You know the way that these people are often vetted by a campaign.
So you made it up.
Before something goes out there. No, I said that the American media and the American Democratic Party apparatus works a certain way. If it comes out that John Kelly never even spoke with a person in the Kamala Harris orbit, then I'm happy. You're telling me that based on secondhand conversations with John Kelly. And it's interesting. We've now spent, Jake, 3 minutes talking about John Kelly. If it is true that he never spoke with anyone in Kamala Harris's orbit, I'm happy to apologize to John Kelly for misstating how he delivered this news to the Atlantic magazine. But let's talk about who did he deliver this news to? To Jeffrey Goldberg, a guy who lied the United States into the Iraq War, which led to the deaths of millions of innocent Arabs and thousands of innocent Americans. You don't go to that guy if you don't have a particular ideological motive. I think that's what's going on. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to say that I'm wrong.
I think it's interesting that you think that a magazine writer lied the American people into war.
Well, he encouraged it. He wrote stories that were dishonest.
He wrote a story about the gassing of the Kurds in I forget if it was the Atlantic or the New Yorker, but I'm actually referring to John Kelly talking to the New York Times.
He wrote stories, by the way, where he took what intelligence officials in the American Pentagon bureaucracy said and wrote it as the gospel truth. And this highlights the entire point that I'm making about Trump's foreign policy, is this is a guy who wants to use American troops sparingly. He wants peace through strength. It's why his foreign policy was so successful during his first term. It's all the same people who were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about the quagmire in Afghanistan. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about everything. And now they're coming after Donald Trump because he actually has a realistic and cautious foreign policy.
I'm talking about people who worked for Donald Trump in his first administration. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not just John Kelly, but Mark Milley, who was the Trump-appointed chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Who disobeyed Trump's direct orders on troop redeployments in Syria.
And I'm talking about the guy that had your job.
A massive violation of his constitutional oath, by the way.
I'm talking about the guy that had your job before Donald Trump's.
So, guys, history will judge all this based on facts. Forget the distractions, all the gaslighting, all these random questions poured out of you know what. 'Cause this stuff is just pulled out of a hat now. This stuff is a magic trick. I don't know how every week they can come out and criticize Trump, Trump's family, and Trump's vice president, Byron Donalds, everyone. That's all these people do. That's all they know how to do. They don't do good journalism. Honestly, these people don't do good journalism. Because if they did good journalism, you would see Kamala Harris getting bashed. You would see the new video that just came out with Joe Biden talking about journalists, calling her out. It seems like if you go to Poly Market and you look at the poll map and you see who's winning and who's not winning, realization starts to hit you and you're thinking, maybe I should go out there and vote for Trump. Maybe I should start sharing these videos that I come across on the web so people can see the truth, because people don't want to pay attention to the truth nowadays because they feel better living in a lie. A lot of people feel better living in a lie, whether they want to sit there and act like they don't see it. They want to sit there and act like, oh, Kamala was the first black president. Whatever lie they want to sit and live in, people feel better living a lie because the truth hurts sometimes. Donald Trump is the person that we need in office, guys. I don't want to keep talking and make this video too long, so we're just going to continue.
Supportive crowd wanted to hang him, Vice President Mike Pence, who said, as you know, that Trump put himself before the Constitution. I'm talking about General Mattis, also Secretary of Defense in Trump's administration. I'm talking about Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense, who told me that Trump does have fascistic tendencies. John Bolton, H.R. McMaster, Alyssa Farah-Griffin.
Okay, Jake,
these are Trump administration officials.
Listen to every Trump administration official? You know, one reason why Kamala Harris doesn't have as many people criticizing her is because she doesn't fire people who fail. That's why we haven't had a real audit of the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, is because Kamala Harris protects failures in government. Donald Trump fires them. And I'd much rather have the president who fires people who screw up. Now, Jake, no, this is an important point. Kamala Harris.
He did not fire Mike Pence.
Kamala Harris.
He did not fire
is the president.
Mark Milley.
Kamala Harris.
He did not fire John.
He fired a lot of those people, Jake, and he did because they weren't doing their job. But this is the thing, Jake. We've now spent 5 minutes talking about people in Donald Trump's staff
who think he's not fit for office.
Who he fired.
Who think he's not fit for office.
Oh, they didn't think he was unfit for office.
Do you see how these people in these news outlets never have facts? But then when you sit there and you say something, he says, "Are you going off of a gut feeling or are you going off facts?" He's not going off that little piece of paper he has agenda written all over it. He's trying to push an agenda, guys. I don't know how this could be so hard to notice. Let's keep going.
Office until they had a falling out with him because he fired them, and we're not talking about the public policy.
Well,
we're actually talk about how Americans can't afford groceries.
We're actually
Can we talk about the fact that Americans can't afford the cost of housing? Can we talk about the fact that a lot of people out there in Erie, Pennsylvania, they're the ones who suffer and die when people like Mark Esper and Mark Milley don't obey the commander-in-chief's orders?
We're talking about Donald Trump and what he says.
Yes. And
Donald Trump says.
And you'd much rather talk about what Donald Trump allegedly said than what Donald Trump did in office.
I'm talking about
what he did in office, Jake.
What he said publicly.
1.5%
he wants to use
inflation.
The military to go after the enemy within, which is the American people.
He did not say that, Jake.
The enemy within?
He said that he was going to send the military after the American people. Show me the quote where he said
he was going to. He said the enemy within.
He said far-left lunatics. He's talking about people rioting
and Schiff.
He's talking about people rioting after the election. I think
the Pelosi's were rioting after the election.
He said
Adam Schiff was rioting after the election.
You're using two separate phrases. He said about using the military that far-left lunatics, people who riot in the wake of an election, people who burn down American cities in the summer of 2020, yes, we should have a federal law enforcement
This is what he said to Joe Rogan on Friday. The enemy within that he wants the military to go after.
No, this is
the enemy within a bigger problem than Kim Jong-un.
The second part.
We have people that.
Even if he's talking about the enemy within, he's talking about the people that are trying to change and disrupt our system. The people that are taking advantage of the American people. He's talking about draining the swamp. People like Hillary Clinton, guys. This is stuff we all know. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people want to sit there and act like they just sleep to the fact. They're just dreaming. What do we call those people? Sheep. They're just sheep. Man, let's keep going, guys. This is an obvious election at this point.
They're really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. That's who the enemy within.
And did he say that he wants to use the military against those people? Here's the game.
Use the military to go after the enemy within.
Here's the game that you're playing. He said
I'm not playing a game.
No. Can I answer the question, please? He said that he wanted to use the military to go after far-left lunatics who were rioting, and he also called them the enemy within. He separately, in a totally different context, in a totally different conversation, said that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff were threats to this country.
Were the enemy within.
Were
the enemy within. He said they were the enemy within.
So every time he uses the exact same phrase, we assume that he uses
I don't know. I don't throw around the term of enemy within to talk about using the military against going American people.
And you're asking his vice president, but you won't let me answer the question. I'm telling you that Donald Trump has said, and I agree with him, that we should.
You gotta respect someone as tough as JD Vance that goes on this show and he doesn't let them interrupt him and push their agenda, guys. You have to. Can I get a JD Vance 24? Can I get a JD Vance 2024 in the comments right now? If you watched this far, because we're what 14 minutes in. Comment JD Vance 2024, please. Let's keep going.
Use the U.S. military to go after
Americans.
People who riot, who burn down our cities.
And this was what John Kelly was.
National Guard.
This was what John Kelly was alarmed by. The idea of using the U.S. military to go after Americans. That's what he said.
Donald Trump never said Americans writ large. You keep on putting words in his mouth and my
Are they
mouth.
or are they not Americans?
Far left people who commit acts of violence, who riot. And
now you're doing a very narrow definition of what he said, which is not what he said. That's not what he said. But let me ask you. Let me ask you the bigger point.
He did say that, Jake. He did. He said that he wanted to use the U.S. military. Let me clarify.
To go after far left lunatics, yes. And then he also added
people who were rioting and looting.
And
he never said.
He added Schiff. And then he added the Pelosi's.
He never.
And then he added people that don't want the country to succeed.
He said that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi he used in a separate context in a separate conversation. And what you're doing is you're smashing two totally different conversations.
Fox asked him about this last week. and he didn't take issue with it. He said the enemy within is the biggest
But did
threat
he
to this
say the enemy
country.
within that he's going to use the military against Nancy Pelosi? Donald Trump offered Nancy Pelosi the National Guard on January the 6th, and according to private
Oh
emails,
boy.
she rejected it.
So let's talk about things that he wants to do that are feeding into this concern that people like John Kelly and General Mattis and General Milley have. He said on Friday, Special Counsel Jack Smith should get thrown out of the country. He's threatened to arrest election officials who cheated. We know that he believes a lot of people cheated that did not cheat. He
Yes,
wants
if
to
you
put.
violate the law, you should be arrested. Yes.
No one disagrees with that, but he's talking
Apparently,
about.
you do, based on the way
No,
you're asking
I'm
the
not.
question.
No, based on the fact that he's accused people that didn't break the law of breaking the law when it comes to the election. And if you want to revisit that, I'm happy to. But Liz Cheney, he said, should be put before a war tribunal. None of that sounds fascist to you at all?
No, of course it doesn't. Of
Putting
course
Liz
it
Cheney
doesn't.
before a military tribunal?
First of all, I don't buy into the premise of what you're saying, Jake, because
things
I just
he said.
on things that
These
I
are
know
things
that
he
he
said.
said, on things that I know that he said, you're imputing things, you're taking words out of context, you're taking two separate conversations and pretending
No, I'm
that they
not.
were made at the exact same
I'm not.
time. So I'm rejecting the premise of your question. I frankly don't believe what you're saying about Donald Trump's words. If you'd like to put up a clip and actually put him in context, I think the American people would realize that Donald Trump is a hell of a lot more reasonable than the people like Liz Cheney who would like to lie us into war. Now, Jake, we also have to remember, I mean, step back a little bit. Well, ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it, and so we covered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is
why.
false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence.
Guys, this interview was the biggest loop ever. I I think if you take a compilation of all of JD Vance and Trump and Tulsi Gabbard's interviews with these people that try to push this hateful agenda, you would have the best presidential ad in the last 50 years, probably. And I think years to come, because the type of way that they throw these questions and they throw these mean names at these people and these mean ways, and the way they reply is it's irrefusable who you think should be president at that point. You know what I mean? Because I don't see Tim Walz going on Fox for an interview. You know what I mean? And I think if Tim Walz was to go on Fox for an interview, that would be kind of one of the most craziest videos that dropped. You seen what happened when Kamala Harris went on any of these news outlets that's not pushing her agenda. She went on some other ones. CNN starting to turn on her. Biden's starting to turn over. Democrats are starting to turn on her. There's people that are switching sides to be with Trump rather than be with her. And they're lifelong Democrats at that point. And I'm trying to do more of the people that are around me and in my circle. I'm trying to turn those people from Democrats to be Republicans. Before this election, I know I don't have long, but I believe that I can get 1 to 2 out of those 10 people to change it. And if I get 1 to 2 out of those 10 people, because these are lifelong Democrats, if I get 1 to 10 of those, 1 to 2 of those people out of the 10 to get to change, man, I'm trying to tell you, Trump 2024, guys. Let's knock this video out. We're gonna finish this.
To anonymous sources, accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care
I'm
most
talking about
about?
things that Donald Trump has said.
Yes.
If you have
and
an issue
Kamala
with whether or
Harris-
not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and your running mate. I'm talking about things he has said this week.
Every single rally that he does, he talks about how he wants to unleash American energy so we can lower the cost of groceries. He talks about
So I'll tell you guys this. This video seems like we're gonna be going in a circle of JD Vance destroying Jake Tapper. That's all this video was. And I will end it here and I'll let you guys go watch it if you want to see the last little 2 to 3 minutes. But CNN set him up for this. CNN set him up, lined him up with JD Vance. JD Vance has been on fire. I have more videos dropping. He dropped NBC. No, yeah, NBC and CBS. He destroyed those people. He just dropped CNN. You've seen that. This is all within a week. Kamala Harris is not showing her face. She's running scared. Democrats are furious. Democrats are running. You know what I mean? Hit that like button, guys. Like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And as always, let me know what you react to. We're out.